Hey guys, Thomas the Jr. here, aka Mustached. I'm here to review the movie The Mitchells vs. the Machines. If you end up enjoying this review, then please consider joining my Patreon page. That'll be the second link in the description below, and I'll remind you at the end of the video to do that. Enough of the shilling, let's get on to the movie. So, this is The Mitchells vs. the Machines. I saw the trailer for this, I want to say like twice maybe, but I've seen some more reviews of the movie, and it seems like, from what I can gauge so far, is that there was an overall positive review for this movie. Obviously, this movie touts from being the people who made Spider-Verse and the Lego movie as well. I remember enjoying the Lego movie, but I remember being disappointed in Into the Spider-Verse, with Miles sharing his movie with the other versions of Spider-Man, as well as his training feeling very incomplete in terms of how to actually train how to fight, which is not the same, by the way, as getting beat down, which is what happened in the movie. So yeah. That's that. So, I figured, I don't know how I'll feel about this movie, but I'll go into it with an open mind. And it's fine. But, let's get down to it. I'll be as objective as possible, of course, as that is the route I'm always constantly trying to get better and better at, using proof, going through parts of the movie, which will be the next little section here. If I go through the movie, spoilers, even though it's for a movie that I'm a little bit late on, so I feel it's a little bit unnecessary at this point, but whatever. Anywho, so the movie starts off with some family narration. Our main character of this movie, out of the four of them, appears to be the older daughter named Katie. And she's talking about how it does the Sonic the Hedgehog thing. It's like, oh, we're starting at the midpoint of the movie. I only mentioned Sonic the Hedgehog movie because it's the last movie I remember doing it. In terms of, it's going to start at the middle point, or the action-oriented part of the movie, and then it's going to cut back to show you how we got there. It's a typical trope at this point. I personally don't mind it. I know other people will probably say it's a bad way to open your movie, but whatever, it's fine. Like I said, this movie's fine. There are some issues it has as well, and there are some things it does really well. So, again, we're gonna go through those. So, she talks about how her family is the worst family to go through this potential situation, and how probably any other family would do just fine. And after that, after we learn that she believes this, we now cut back to the few days ago, back to prior, before this whole robot apocalypse. So we learn who the other family members are. We learn who the younger son is. His name is Aaron. He's into dinosaurs. The father being into nature, and the mother, his name I might have written a little later down. Yeah. Is into cooking, from what I can gauge. They say their family is weird. And, okay, this is where it gets a little bit wonky, I feel. It doesn't feel like their hobbies are weird. It feels like that's pretty average, all things considered. Being into nature and building things, it sounds pretty average. Being into dinosaurs, that sounds pretty average. Being into cooking, again, and that sounds pretty average. And her herself, by the way, she's into uploading videos via movie style slash YouTube. They even mention YouTube and slash Instagram and other things like that. Then again, that one isn't that weird. Um, just, you know, that that comes with the asterisk of YouTube is the place of suffering, but not for the reason the movie indicates, so, you know. Anywho, so we learn that the computer program, or the industry, or the company uh, logo name, or not the logo name, like the name of the line, I guess I'll call it, of phones being the PAL phones, are talking about how they're being updated, but the family is, doing their own little thing right now. And the father, of course, comes to see this situation. He's coming in, he's seeing, and he's afraid that Katie is gonna, through her ambitions, is going to fail. And he currently doesn't understand her thing, being into whole computers. He's a boomer, you see. So he accidentally breaks the laptop, or he does it on purpose later on, but still. And she's all angry. By the way, she's getting ready to set for college, which another cliche, but whatever. So the dad, in his little flump, decides to watch some of their early childhood moments. And I will say this in terms of where the movie is at its best. The movie is at its best when it actually decides to slow down. There's a lot of action towards it. Even you can see the poster itself. You see the robots chasing them. They're in the car. They're driving. But the movie does know when to slow down, and it knows how to pace itself well in terms of slowing down and having these little moments, these little family moments, so that it actually feels like they're trying to go for a little bit of a Pixar. Like, they're like, hey, Pixar, what's up, baby? What's up? That's the best way I can explain it. They try to go for these a lot more emotional moments, and they do work pretty well. So, in his folly of doing things, he continues to do something badish. He cancels the college trip, but does technically warn or say to her that she doesn't have to do the whole, college first day thing, like it's not a mandatory thing from what he's trying to say, but she's still pretty upset. Oh, and I did write the mother's name. Her name is Lynn. Sorry. My notes can be a little bit sporadic, so apologies. Anyway, as they're getting ready for their new little adventure, Katie's doing what she knows how to do, and that's record her misadventures. And we have a little montage of that happening. In the background, we also see that the PAL organization is also having their opening, or their next in-line thing that is going to happen. And we are introduced to Mark, the guy who shows that there is a current phone, but he's ready to upgrade these phones to these robotic servants that, of course, are going to later on, very soonish, take over and get hacked. And within moments, they get hacked. And I should say at this point, the movie also does a lot of, oh, this thing totally isn't happening, cut to that thing totally happening. It's a gag that this movie does quite a bit. one being like, oh, that whole uh, party update thing isn't bopping, cut to people being excited for the reveal of thing happening. So yeah, a lot of that going on in this movie as well. Anywho, so they get hacked and the robots get ready to take over the world. So uh, that happens pretty early on. And as our montage cuts to a close and as our world domination of the robots begins, we see that the trip is like they're kind of returning ish back. But they do see a dinosaur shop, which, of course, with Aaron being the dinosaur loving character, he's like, oh, let's go there. And during this, we see his little mini character side story where he sees the next door neighbor named Abby, or I think that's her name, and his little crush with her. She is the next door neighbor, by the way, and their whole family, according to the mom, is apparently perfect, or at least perfect comparatively. So he's young crushing on this girl, and he totally flubs it, saying the opposite things of what he means to say, including that he hates dinosaurs and doesn't want to talk to her, and then running off every opportunity that he gets. Pretty, you know, pretty consistent in that. So anyway, so so while after that little moment, he runs off and he sees that the robots are landing there with a few others. So we see the other family escape, but the Mitchells are left there. And at this moment, they pull out their phones, and the dad's like worrying and mentioning how they could be tracked. So he destroys them, this time much more on purpose, so that they won't get tracked. And while we cut away to our villain side, we hear some of the things that technology is bad for, but we also hear from at least our uh, antagonist why some of the things that phones do really well and how they connect us. So here's the thing, right? We have a lot of movies out there that's all like technology future bad, but we have come to this day and age where technology is just a part of our lives. That is just where we are now in 2021. And we have been there for a while at this point, I should feel to say. Um, so yeah, I actually appreciate this, the theme, if you will, of the movie. It is pretty effective. It isn't just saying thing is purely good or thing is purely bad. It's going to show you both sides, and I actually really appreciate this. It's not just thing is bad, which when I've seen other, you know, technology movies like this, it usually tends to lend itself to it being bad. Usually. I think there was like one other movie where it's like, oh, technology is actually pretty neat, but I forget what the movie's called. And there might be a few others out there, but I'm struggling to remember any of them at the moment, so I do apologize. Point being, it's refreshing to hear our antagonist, but we later see that the father actually has a moment with technology, and it's pretty neat. So, thumbs up for that. Anyway, so the Wi-Fi is turned off, and people are going nuts. And in this little moment, Katie is ignored once again. This is a running part of the earlier movie. We see her trying to make friends early on in school and get mocked, and like she has a little moment where she retreats, and we see this little animation of the heart thing breaking. Then we see it with happening with the father as well before this moment, and again it happens this time as well. So they're these really repetitive, but they build on each other, so that's actually really good. You want to reinforce these things. That's good writing, believe it or not. So anyways, so Aaron decides to check in with Katie, and again, the movie takes its time at this moment to slow down and have a little moment with just Aaron and Katie. It's a really nice moment, so really well done. And we cut down, or pan down actually really well, to Rick and the mother talking about how he wants to protect Katie, obviously, to the best of his ability. But in the process of them trying to escape this place, they had attacked these two robots, and they managed to squish two of them. And they sort of recovered to some degree. However, it appears that they are now free from their former hacked, or like, selves, I guess. Anyways, we have a liar reveal plot to suddenly throw in the movie. So at this point, Katie talks to the father about how they want to do it this way or whatever, and she lies to the father. So it's very clear at this moment, the very moment she even starts talking, that later on in the movie, towards the end, that it's going to be a liar reveal story. Now, a lot of people tend to not like this. This particular cliche. And, you know, I always say it's about, or I'm trying to get into the habit of saying it's all about execution, right? In this particular case, this instance, I would agree. I would agree that this instance of liar revealed is pretty damn weak. And it kind of follows suit with the end portion of the movie as well. I feel like the ending of this movie has a lot of weak moments. It is unfortunate, but we're gonna get there. So anyways, so we see this little moment where Katie reads off what Aaron is writing, and we have another moment of that later on. So again, repetitive moments happening in the movie. Anyways, the robots are giving chase, and they barely escape. And they manage to reach a mall, in which various appliances get ready to attack them, including the return of a Furby line. Which, wow, that is a callback to. Whew, I'm a little surprised that people still know what Furby is. That's something that's really old. Anyways, the family are trying to get the router and the laptop, and because they have this whole hijack thing going on that they could potentially do, but they need internet access, which is ironic. But they get cut off by shutting off the router there. So the updated robots get bigger, updated robots that are now these black robots that can, like, shift, is, I guess, the best way I can explain it. And again, we have another moment where the mom talks to the husband, and again, the movie slows down once again. They just cleared out the mall, the movie slows down, and they have another nice little slow moment. Really well placed here. So they get ready to execute their plan, and they're driving in after the fact. They do the whole robot plan that she suggests. They're in the facility. They get up there, and the computer is talking to them because she kind of figures that they're doing this, but she doesn't know where they are quite yet. And she shows off, of course, the liar reveal part. So that happens pretty fast, but it distracts them to the point of it slowing them down ever so slightly, is the best interpretation I can give it. And their little hacking method is crushed. And also, the father and mother are caught, so only Katie and Aaron are left to save the world for now. And as they run away, and as she's looking on this little recording that she's been using, she sees that she was recording over these little family moments, including another slow moment where we see how the father gave up his cabin building to raise his family. Another neat little moment. And the dad, as well, is also having another nice, really sweet moment where he's watching a video as well of her, what she was doing, the movie that she was making, in fact, and her way of coping with the stuff that she was going through and still feeling like she needed him. It's a really neat moment. So, anyways, Erin is helping with getting her positions as she's driving about on the outside, and the father manages to get out, and of his, because he's in this little tube container thing along with all these other people, but he manages to be the one person in that area that has the right tool that the other guy, the builder of the computer stuff, mentions for whatever reason. So he has that, of course, and he's able to escape. But during their talk and during that little moment, the Mark guy mentions how if they could upload a video of the dog, because apparently the dog confuses the robots so much that they short circuit. Okay, but sure. It's a little ridiculous, but whatever. I should say it's actually really ridiculous. So the father is trying to navigate the horrors of YouTube, and from what I could gauge, it looks like the earlier years of YouTube, back before YouTube became a conglomerate industry based more so on a job than people saying that it's just for fun. It looks like that YouTube, the prior YouTube, the older YouTube. So, Anyways, we have a neat little moment when the mom gets out and she sees that the son was captured, Aaron, and she goes into mama rage mode. And this is a moment of female empowerment. Yes, I'm not going to deny it, but it's actually really well done. And pretty funny on top of that. I found it pretty fun and funny and really well done. It did all three effectively. Anyway, so Katie gets caught on, the whole reveal happens, as I mentioned, but she eventually teams up with her father at this point, and they do a thing that they do a callback to way earlier on in the movie where she was singing this old internet song. So they end up singing it while they're battling these robots and flying around. The mother comes in with the son after going mama badass bear mode. And the four of them reunite at last. So after reuniting, the way that they defeat this little phone, which is the antagonist, they throw it in the water, and it dies pretty anticlimactic, extremely so, to the point of saying, I don't know if that would actually work in terms of technology, since, at least in this day and age, from what I can gauge, a lot of technology is waterproof. So, again, I'm assuming since they used older YouTube, that this movie takes place a few years ago, like back when YouTube was start first popping off. So that's the only way I can defend the end of this movie. Uh, but that's the thing, it's really hard to gauge when in the timeline this movie takes place outside of using YouTube as the definitive answer, so all I can do is really shrug. So, anyways, the family is saved. They saved the world. And she goes off to college, and uh, the final moment is her sort of saying goodbye and walking into the college door. But we have a little sort of extra credit scene, but it happens immediately after. It doesn't happen during like mid credits or anything. So, in this little scene, excuse me, she's now in college for X amount of weeks. We see Aaron, as I mentioned, having another little moment with Abby, talking about dinosaurs because she's also interested in dinosaurs, which is why he got all Google-eyed for her in the first place. But he has another moment where they're together in the room, um, and the mother goes in on them, and then the son freaks out again. So not much has changed in that regard. The mother mentions that, the daughter, Katie, has a girlfriend at the end of the movie because, you can't. Apparently, no one can write lesbian characters that are in a couple, of course, so gotta save that reveal for the end of the movie. Um, which, that one's stupid. I hate it. To me, it's just as bad as doing it for Cora. Um, I talked about this plenty of times before. Um, how I feel, how weak Cora's moment is. So I feel that's the equivalent of that in this movie. So, pretty weak moment. It's a solo moment, and it happens at the end of the movie because, of course, it does. Of course, it does. The, how are we still not ready to have LGBT characters be in a relationship in a movie that's well written? How far away are we really? Because, again, I can't name that many movies. I can't name 5 movies yet. Not 5. I don't think I can name 3 movies yet that have well written characters that are of LGBT representation yet. And that's a little embarrassing. We're not there yet. But as I mentioned, that is the end of the movie. So, again, just to recap how I feel about it overall, I would say that the movie has a lot of nice slower moments. They are the strongest parts of the movie. The weakest part of the movie, again, to me, is the ending. We have a liar revealed story accompanied with what feels like a very anticlimactic part of the movie on top of that. So it's bundled together with another part that I feel is really poorly handled in this situation. Um, so yeah, while I would argue that Into the Spider Verse has a moment, its montage moment is the moment that is in that film broken. The ending of this film is to me what the part that is most broken and most fundamentally the thing that needs to be changed in order for it to be a completely solid 7 out of 10 movie. Instead, I'm going to have to give it a 6 out of 10, which is still pretty good, but it does signify that there are a few more issues that I feel happen in this movie that prevent it from being that solid standard 7 out of 10 that I usually give a lot of things that I feel are standard and just overall, again, just meet the basic requirements of being a solid movie. So that's where that line is. Anyway, that is The Mitchells versus the Machines, and if you ended up enjoying this review, then please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. Also, make sure to check out those links in the description. One will head you over to my Discord server, the other to my Patreon page. Any donations are desperately needed, and until next time, everyone, bye-bye.